Hello, and welcome. Today we're discussing a great piece of modern animation, as well as some of its themes and its roots in folklore. Over the Garden Wall. Being in my early 20s at the time of this recording, I grew up with some great kids' entertainment courtesy of Cartoon Network. All nostalgia aside though, their newer shows are still following in that tradition of taking kids seriously. Over the Garden Wall is a 10-episode miniseries from creator Patrick McHale, who also worked on Flapjack and Adventure Time. It aired leading up to Halloween of 2014 and is based on McHale's short of the same name. The show tells the story of two brothers, Wirt and Greg, who find themselves lost in a mysterious place called the Unknown. They must find their way home, and on the way they meet many both charming and frightening characters. In this video, I will be discussing the show's themes as well as providing some narrative context, so if you haven't seen the show yet, I suggest you do so before watching this video. There are spoilers ahead. The stage is set, and the first moments of the show tell us a lot about what we're in for. We're not in Kansas anymore, and we're introduced to Wirt and Greg, as well as the Woodsman and Beatrice the Bluebird. In the first episode, we discover that Wirt is smart, sensitive, and a bit anxious, while Greg is funny, kind, and will get on your nerves like only a child his age can. We are introduced to what is presumably the antagonist, the Beast, through dialogue between the boys and the Woodsman, an old man who guards a secret along with the lantern he keeps lit at all costs with the oil from edelwood trees. There is a fake-out antagonist in the form of the dog, and already we see that all is not as it seems in the Unknown. The first episode is an example of well-done exposition through dialogue, subtext, musical themes, and aesthetics. The animation style grounds the show in early American popular culture, and the dialogue is heavy on foreshadowing. We know from the first episode that Wirt feels isolated, and his dialogue points directly to his song with Lorna later on. Beatrice, who is reintroduced at the beginning of the second episode, is a really interesting character to me. Her arc is reminiscent of that of a fairy tale character, throwing a rock at a bluebird, being cursed to be one, seeking out a magical item, that being Adelaide's scissors, and making the right choice in the end, securing her future. By requesting help and promising to lend a helping hand in return by taking the boys to the good lady of the forest, she also embodies the fairy tale archetype of the magical helper. When the group arrive at Pottsfield, it seems desolate, except for the odd turkey, and of course the music emerging from a nearby barn. Pottsfield is a town of the dead, but all the dead really want is to be reunited in dance and song. The colors evoke late autumn and the themes of the harvest, along with the villagers not being very subtle about their condition.
Aren't you a little too early?
Further drives the point home. Enoch, the leader, is an unnerving presence to be sure, but not bad by any accounts. Death in this particular story is a natural part of life, and not some evil entity. Well, not necessarily. The first couple of episodes are spent getting to know our main characters and their motivations, while the next 3 episodes or so are spent getting to know our characters further, having adventures and building pathos until they are separated, and shit really hits the proverbial fan at the end of the 8th episode. Initially, Wirt is a pushover, and it turns out that little Greg is a bit of a rabble-rousing vigilante. He mobilizes cute animals through improvised song, steals their only means of expression back from a menacing authority figure, and puts on a benefit concert to save their school. At the end of that particular adventure, Wirt is seemingly no longer as much of a pushover, and then the episode ends as Beatrice tells him to tie his shoes, which he promptly does. Setup and payoff
really is as sweet as potatoes and molasses.
We catch a glimpse of the Woodsman again at the beginning of the next episode, thus we aren't surprised when he re-enters later on. The group arrives at a tavern, and we are given a bit of everything in a very short time, be that exposition, music, or memorable characters. This one guy really steals the show.
I'm the highwayman.
Yeah. The song comes out of nowhere, to hilarious effect, and has a couple of layers, as the highwayman makes ends meet and presumably also makes people meet their ends. Inside the tavern, we get to learn a lot more about the Unknown and the Beast, and this informs the conflict later on with the Woodsman. The role Wirt is given by their patrons as pilgrim or wanderer is reminiscent of stock fairy tale heroes like Jack of... have your pick, really. Wirt is a hero who takes part in several seemingly unrelated adventures, but in this case they all serve the overarching story. After a brief confrontation with the woodsman, the group make their escape. Now for the reveal. We see the beast for the first time, and we finally know the woodsman's motivation. The beast has convinced him that his daughter's soul lies within the lantern, and if the flame dies, so will she. What really gets me is that our heroes have already encountered the beast without realizing it. His song is heard and remarked upon in a scene with Beatrice and Fred the talking horse, and it's a bit disturbing upon second viewing. The highwayman, who doesn't really do anything except sing and
I'm the highwayman.
interrupt, is initially way more menacing than what seems to be the devil incarnate. The show is highly rewatchable because, as I mentioned earlier, nothing is ever as it seems. The subsequent episode, Mad Love, is funny and sweet story about business competitors turned romantic partners by way of believed paranormal phenomena. We learn more about our heroes, like how Beatrice became a bluebird and that Word is knowledgeable but preoccupied with mundane teen issues, like having a crush on this girl named Sarah, and all is well until Greg throws the money they needed for the ferry down a well. There's our conflict for the next episode, which title is a reference to a song I sang a lot in my high school choir actually, Lullaby in Birdland, or in this case, Frogland. Most of the music in Over the Garden Wall is evocative of early American styles like ragtime, folk, country, and Dixieland jazz, further grounding the story in American popular and folk culture. Our heroes don't have money for tickets, so hijinks ensue, and they are saved by Greg's frog and his wonderful singing voice. He gets a record deal, of course, and when they reach land and camp for the night, Beatrice visits Adelaide under the cover of darkness. She has been leading Word and Greg to a witch who intends to use them as child servants, which is an obvious nod to Hansel und Gretchen of the Brothers Grimm. Beatrice is not having it at all, but Word and Greg arrive and confront them both. Beatrice tries to help, but it's too late. They are separated after Beatrice exposes Adelaide to the cool night air, which kills her, an homage to The Wizard of Oz, which influence will become even more apparent as we approach the end of the story. Word and Greg seek shelter in what they believe to be an abandoned house, but a young girl by the name of Lorna lives there, as well as the terrifying Auntie Whispers. We've seen the turtles the boys use to evade Auntie Whispers a lot in the show already, actually, which is another example of the show's use of foreshadowing and recurring themes. Wirt and Lorna share one of my favorite moments in the show, which addresses the isolation Wirt expressed in the first episode. And after making us care, the show does its thing by revealing Lorna to be possessed by an evil spirit, Auntie Whispers being her safekeeper. After compelling the spirit to leave Lorna alone by using a magical bell, Wirt loses all hope that they are ever getting home. The beast is watching, and he has the woodsman in his grip. There is only the beast's way, and most who try to bargain with him are sure to be tricked. In this way, he bears a striking resemblance to depictions of the devil in folklore. The song of the beast is heard again, and this time we know what it means. Wirt gives up, and the brothers lie down to sleep beneath a tree. Greg dreams of Cloud City and its many welcome committees.
Well, that's enough.
He still has hope. The queen tells him that Word is too far gone, so he decides to take his place, leaving his brother's side upon waking up and joining the beast in the forest, disappearing. Wirt finds himself alone and panics, falling into the water and nearly drowning before Beatrice and a fish save him. This is the absolute low point for our main characters. We go back to before the beginning, following Greg and Wirt in our world during the events that led up to them getting lost in the unknown. The mixtape, the Halloween party, and Jason Funderburker, the first rock fact, and this wonderful human being.
Hey, you two robbers, you're under arrest. Nah, just kidding, happy Halloween. Hey, stop running in the street. Just kidding, happy Halloween.
The mundane is important and is treated as such. While running from the police at the graveyard, Greg and Wirt climb over the garden wall, crossing the threshold, entering into the underworld, like Orpheus, like Dorothy, like anyone in the stories we have told each other around the campfire throughout the ages.
So then, a guy with an axe showed up.
The two brothers are almost hit by the train we hear at the start of every episode. Set up, payoff. They tumble towards the icy water. Wirt wakes up in the unknown with the frog among Beatrice's relatives, and he knows what he must do. The storm is still raging, and Beatrice sees Greg doing tasks for the beast. 3 tasks, of course, and Beatrice and Wirt are reunited, searching for Greg. The woodsman finds the child as he is turning into an edelwood tree. He is horrified. His daughter wouldn't want this, so he lunges at the beast with his axe. Wirt sees the light of the lantern and finally finds his brother. They confront the beast as he tries to make a deal. Does this sound familiar? Wirt gets it now. He has power, and the lantern doesn't hold the soul of the woodsman's daughter, but the soul of the beast. The boys give Beatrice the scissors she needed to complete her journey, saving herself and her family, as they leave the woodsman, who finally confronts his oppressor, snuffing out the flame like it was nothing. Catharsis. Epilogue. The boys crawl out of the freezing water, little Jason Funderburker along for the haul, waking up in the hospital surrounded by friends. They have emerged from the underworld, changed, like Orpheus or Dorothy. All is as it should be, but the story goes on. When we look back to the first moments of the show, it all becomes clear. Real life is important and beautiful, however mundane. Love, courage, and these stories we tell each other, ourselves, like echoes. Folklore, the loveliest lies of all.
The loveliest lie.